Wish is hands down the worst film to come out of Walt Disney Animation Studios. Worse than Chicken Little, worse than Black Cauldron, but is it worse than? Yes. I didn't go in expecting much when it came out, maybe just a mediocre conglomerate of Disney's classic lineup written by AI, but it came off more like written by AI off of Windows 98, negative first edition, as what I saw was so broken and so messy that I couldn't believe what they allowed to be released for their 100th anniversary. But I know a lot of critics and audiences, as poorly received as the film was with both them and the box office, didn't quite feel as strongly. Most critics basically dubbed the film as weak, saying that if you were looking for the basic pretty animation and nice songs, you would get that at least. But one, there's like 60 other films to choose from for all that. And two, most of the problems people had with the film, such as lame songs, annoying paper-thin characters, and so on, would just be mildly annoying in something with at least a better foundation. The thing that crumbles Wish goes much, much deeper than that, and it's actually kind of amazing that I'm the only one who noticed how much it destroys the film. A common complaint amongst critics and audiences for the film is its strange fixation on referencing classic Disney films. In some cases, it would be with some characters trying to look like other classic Disney characters, like these seven looking like the seven dwarves, or that guy later on looking like Peter Pan. Other times it would be with the songs that they have, like an opening song giving exposition, or the emotional center song, or the power drive song, and the rest of the time it's just ticking boxes for the classic tropes Disney has been known for, like the quirky lead, the talking animal sidekicks, and so on. While I don't disagree with those complaints, or those complaints being complaints, the thing people have to realize is that Disney's been doing this for basically all these 100 years. As much as they sometimes like to pretend they're turning their tropes on their head, in the end, every film of theirs eventually comes back to these tropes, and we eat them up like bonbons. And we continue to consume those tropes, such as the princess getting together with the prince, or the independent free spirit, because of the emotions they evoke from us. And part of the reason they evoke those emotions is because most of the time, they're used in a way that fits the narrative for the story they're trying to tell that, at their foundation, are still fresh and unique stories. Frozen, for instance, is a film that, again, as much as it likes to turn the tropes on their heads in some ways, still comes back to them, but in a way that serves the ultimate story going on between Elsa and Anna. The trope of the free spirit is effectively used for Anna as a contrast against Elsa's emotional imprisonment, as well as the emotional surge for Elsa when she's free from that imprisonment. The trope of the 3-day engagement is both turned on its head, as well as executed in a way that fits the development of both Anna and Kristoff. Callbacks weren't simply cheap callbacks to other Disney films, they were used to evoke certain emotions and didn't feel out of place with the narrative. With the obvious exception of films like Melody Time or Fantasia that don't even follow the traditional narrative structure at all, every animated Disney film, especially if I might add the ones that we deem as objectively good, utilizes in some way, shape, or form the callbacks to these tropes. They're a warm reminder of the brand that we're watching, back when they didn't have an identity crisis, but they don't distract from the main story going on and instead supplement it. They enhance the story being told, and part of the reason why the idea for something like, again, Frozen gets tossed around as early on as since, at the earliest, the Renaissance era, is because trying to find a way to utilize those tropes in a way that enhances what is set up as the foundation to be a groundbreaking story is a tricky puzzle and not something you should rush out even for a 100th anniversary. You can guess what film fell into that trap, but whereas most audiences were annoyed by how pointless some of these callbacks and how they didn't go all out with just making these the seven dwarves or just making this guy Peter Pan, what annoys me about this haphazard infection of a trope train is that instead of enhancing an already well-established setup like Disney's other films, it's instead used to try to distract audiences from how insanely broken the foundation for a plot is, like waving keys in front of our faces to distract us from a gas-powered train wreck. The basic setup is that King Magnifico dealt with bad people, I guess, in the past and decided to create a safe haven where everyone could live happily and rent-free. Already the economics aren't making sense, but, you know, for kids. And part of this gimmick is that everyone in the kingdom, when they turn 18, we'll get to that in a second, gives him their wish to protect from harm and ill will. Again, give me a second. And once a month, he'll grant one wish out of all that he has gathered. But then our main character, Asha, applying to be his apprentice, get it? Makes a shocking discovery that the king only chooses wishes that he deems worthy, and also that on that 18th birthday when they give their wish to him, they lose the memory of that wish. But then still remember that they have a wish that could be granted and would still anticipate it, thus making the eagerness behind his ceremony, so what would be the point in taking the memory of it? In fact, you're already taking away the memory of the wish itself, but still allowing them to have the memory that they have a wish being retained in your castle, but they apparently live up to their 100th birthday without ever creating an uproar and a riot? Why? He has your wish locked up, you don't even remember what it is, why don't you just stomp on in and grab your wish? They never established that he's too powerful for you all to just dogpile on him. In fact, he has to crush your wish just to get more power, so why not overpower him? Oh, because he's such a good king. No, he's not. He takes dozens, if not hundreds of wishes, locks them up in a castle, and chooses one wish per month to grant, and what he chooses, like making dresses for the kingdom or being a valiant knight that brings in a traitor, is so obviously only in the benefit of what he wants for the kingdom at the time and not a cent in your benefit, so what makes you think he's a good king? Oh, but he's not locking up our wishes, he's protecting them. Protecting them from what? Harm and ill will? Apart from the fact that we still don't even know what's out there to harm people or wishes, how exactly do you harm a wish? All a wish is a desire in your head that you can either verbally say to someone like a wizard to get it granted, or use as a motivator for your own goals. There's no way to harm it, unless they harm you, but you don't need to give them your wish to lock up in a castle in order for him to protect you. This system makes no sense. But oh, I guess the people in this kingdom never think about that because they lose their memory of what their wish is when they're 18. Yeah, for 18 years they continue to live out their lives with full memories and fully aware of everything going on and fully capable of observing everything. In fact, they kind of establish this grumpy stand-in as fully aware of everything going on, and yet no one else in the kingdom notices all the phony baloney nonsense going on with this setup, to the point where this power drive song is supposed to hold some sort of a powerful emotional resonance because, oh, our great king lied to us and now we're furious and we're going to rebel. People, this system was broken from the start, and y'all are insufferable morons for just now noticing it. Y'all haven't earned a drum-pounding song for what you just now discovered. This system should have been broken ages ago, but the fact that apparently lasted 100 years is now just breaking down. But oh, look, it's Peter Pan. Just no. Just no. Say what you will about the worst Disney films prior to this, but at the bare minimum, they have a pretty solid foundation for society and or environment, even if the characters, much like the morons in this insufferable garbage, didn't always have personalities they could get behind. That was a whole new low that I never thought a film with a $200 million budget behind it could reach, but Wish managed to achieve it, and it makes me want to pitch a Worst Animated Feature award to the Razzies. It didn't just create bland characters or mean-spirited characters like Disney's other bad films, it created a society centered around a monarchy that no one in their right mind would agree to, and yet they do agree to, and only conveniently for the plot start to question at the time of the film. The film feels like an attempt to squeeze in as many callbacks while also trying to get its original story, with the rubble of the original story segments being left behind after crumbled to a crisp in favor of these callbacks. And honestly, I think the film would have fared out better if it had just picked one side or the other. Either tell a straightforward prince rescuing a princess story that allowed for a lot of callbacks to Disney's legacy, or go all out and tell something fresh and original with maybe a few callbacks. Even a halfway decent film would have serviced their 100th anniversary better, especially after everything they've been through. Honestly, the idea of a king who's also a wizard with the ability to grant wishes trying to create a safe haven and serve his subjects has more emotional conflict by itself without having to squeeze in the Seven Dwarves or a Mirabelle stand-in or anything. How would such a king with his own determination of what's good and what's not maintain a kingdom? Would he have to push aside his own bias for the good of his subjects? Where would he draw the line? When do the wishes become too dangerous? The film does dabble on this a little bit, but instead of letting the emotions of the characters play out, it instead just makes them brain-dead morons that coast on the obviously broken societal system until the plot calls for it, and in the end, that's what truly makes the film atrocious. Aspects like crappy songs, useless and annoying characters, a highly inconsistent system for magic that has limitations when the plot needs conflict and can suddenly do whatever the crap it wants when it needs our characters to have an advantage, and an oddly ineffective take on the 2D 3D hybrid animation would be mildly annoying in a film that's at least stable in the world that it creates. But by not even creating a stable, consistent, or sensible world for our characters to properly carry out their story in, it's basically like trying to read a book with a busted binding. I don't say very often that nothing about a film makes sense, as most of the time some things at least make sense, but I truly mean it this time. Nothing, I repeat, nothing about this film makes sense. I wish it did, just as much as I wish Disney had an all-around better 100th anniversary, but I suppose hitting rock bottom like this means that we're going nowhere but up from here, even if it takes a while. Anyway, I'm tired, so I'm gonna watch Encanto again.